I don't run from danger, but that night, danger was already sitting at my table. The chandelier above us shimmered like 1,000 quiet warnings, each crystal catching the golden light and scattering it across polished marble floors, across silverware aligned too perfectly, across faces that smiled just a little too long. I remember the weight of the glass in my hand, cold against my fingers, the faint scent of aged bourbon rising with every slow breath I took. My wife sat across from me, elegant as always, her posture flawless, her smile practiced, her eyes unreadable. Her parents flanked her like royalty, speaking in soft tones about investments, about properties, about things that sounded harmless until you listened closely enough to hear what wasn't being said. I nodded at the right moments. I always did. Because control isn't loud. It's quiet. It's patient. It listens more than it speaks. But something was off. It started small. The waiter who poured my drink avoided eye contact. The man near the exit shifted his stance when I looked his way, like he'd been waiting for something. Even the music felt wrong. Too slow, too deliberate, like the room itself was holding its breath. I didn't show it. I never do. I lifted my glass, let the rim hover just beneath my lips, and watched. That's when she stepped closer. Scarlet Hayes. Just another waitress in a black uniform that blended into the background. Her hair pulled back, her movements efficient but not hurried. Invisible. That's what she was supposed to be. But she wasn't invisible to me. Not when her hand trembled just slightly as she set the plate down. Not when her eyes flicked up for half a second too long. And definitely not when she leaned in, close enough for her voice to slip past the noise of the room and land directly in my ear. Run. Now. 2 words. Soft. Urgent. Real. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I smiled instead, the kind of smile that told everyone at the table I was still in control, still exactly where I wanted to be. Because men like me don't react. We calculate. I set the glass down slowly, the faint clink echoing louder than it should have. My wife's smile didn't falter. Not even a flicker. Her father raised his glass a second too late, like he was following a cue instead of leading the moment. And that's when I felt it. Not fear, not yet, but awareness. Sharp. Precise. The kind that cuts through illusions like glass. I let my eyes move, just enough to catch the details. The exit was no longer clear. The staff had shifted. The rhythm of the room had changed. This wasn't dinner anymore. It was a stage. And everyone here knew their role, except me. Or at least, that's what they thought. I glanced at Scarlet Hayes again. She was already stepping away, blending back into the crowd, but her shoulders were tense, like she was carrying the weight of something bigger than a simple warning. I should have ignored her. I should have trusted my own system, my own instincts, my own control. But something in her voice didn't sound like fear. It sounded like certainty. And certainty is something I don't overlook. I picked up my glass again, but this time I didn't drink. Because the moment she whispered those words, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't the one in control anymore. I have sat in rooms worth more than entire city blocks, but I have never felt a silence this loud. It pressed against my ears, wrapped around my throat, settled into my chest like something waiting to happen. I kept my posture relaxed, shoulders loose, breathing steady, the way I was trained to do long before money ever entered the picture. Control starts with the body. Always. My fingers traced the rim of the glass, slow, deliberate, buying time while my mind worked through the details piece by piece. The man near the exit shifted again, this time angling his body just enough to block a clear path without making it obvious. Subtle. Professional. Not mine. My security team never improvises like that. They follow patterns. Predictable. Reliable. This was neither. I let my gaze drift across the dining room, catching reflections in the mirrored wall behind the bar. 3 unfamiliar faces where there should have been none. One near the kitchen entrance. One pretending to check his phone. One watching me through the reflection instead of directly. They were not hiding. They were waiting. My wife lifted her glass again, her movement smooth, her smile warm enough to fool anyone who did not know her the way I did. But I noticed the smallest detail. Her hand was steady. Too steady. Not a tremor, not a hesitation. Like she had already accepted how this night would end. Her father leaned back in his chair, talking about a new development project outside Chicago, his voice casual, measured, completely detached from the tension tightening around us. I had heard that tone before. Men use it when they already know the outcome. When the conversation is no longer a conversation, but a distraction. I nodded once, letting him continue, but I stopped listening to the words. Words lie, patterns do not. The waiter returned, offering to refill my drink, and I gave him a polite nod. Up close I saw it. His cuff was wrong. Not the brand this place uses. Not the stitching either. Small things. Always small things. I declined the refill, my voice calm, almost bored, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I leaned back slightly, just enough to catch another angle of the room, and that was when I noticed it. The signal on my phone was gone. No bars. No connection. Clean. Intentional. This was not a coincidence. This was preparation. I set the phone down without reacting, my thumb brushing the edge like it meant nothing. Inside, everything sharpened. Time slowed. Every sound separated. The soft clink of cutlery. The faint hum of the air conditioning. The distant laughter from another table that had no idea what they were sitting inside of. A stage, I thought again. And I was the only one who had not been given a script. I looked toward the kitchen door, searching for Scarlet Hayes, but she was gone. Not just out of sight. Gone in a way that felt deliberate, like she had already done her part. That realization settled deeper than anything else. She did not warn me out of panic. She warned me because she knew exactly what was coming. I exhaled slowly, letting the air leave my lungs in a controlled release, and made a decision. I could confront it, call it out, turn the table into chaos. Or I could do what I have always done best. Adapt, survive, learn. I reached for my glass again, lifting it halfway, then setting it back down without drinking. A small gesture, but enough to signal hesitation. Enough to buy seconds. And in moments like this, seconds are everything. My wife's eyes flicked to mine, just for a fraction of a second, and in that fraction, I saw it. Not fear, not regret. Certainty. The kind that only exists when someone believes they have already won. I gave her a faint smile in return, calm, unreadable, the same expression that built everything I have. But inside, one thought echoed louder than anything else. If Scarlet Hayes was right, then this was not a dinner. This was the moment everything in my life was about to change. I have learned that the most dangerous moment is not when everything falls apart, but when everything still looks perfect. The table was still set with precision, the candles still burned with quiet elegance, and the conversation continued as if nothing had shifted beneath the surface. But I could feel it now, unmistakable, like pressure building before a storm. I leaned forward slightly, resting my forearms on the table, bringing myself closer into the circle they thought they controlled. It was a subtle move, one that let me see more, hear more, exist inside the tension instead of outside it. My wife tilted her head, studying me with a softness that used to mean something different. Now it felt rehearsed. "You seem quiet tonight," she said, her voice light, almost teasing. I let a small smile form, measured and controlled. "I am listening," I replied, my tone even, giving her nothing more than that. Her father chuckled, lifting his glass again, the sound too timed, too convenient. "That is a good habit," he said. "Most men talk too much when they should be observing." The irony almost made me laugh. I let the silence stretch for a second longer than necessary, watching how they reacted to the pause. Her mother adjusted her napkin, eyes dropping for just a moment before returning to the table. Another signal. Another piece of a puzzle that was coming together faster than they expected. I shifted my attention to the edge of the room, where a man in a dark suit pretended to study a wine list he had not turned a page of in over 2 minutes. Waiting. Always waiting. I exhaled slowly and reached for the menu, even though I had already ordered. The paper felt heavier than it should have, the texture slightly different. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. I opened it casually, letting my eyes scan the inside, and there it was. A small crease near the bottom corner. Intentional, not part of the design. A signal. My pulse did not change, but my focus sharpened. Scarlet Hayes. She had not disappeared. She had left something behind. I adjusted the menu slightly, angling it so the light caught the crease just right. There was writing. Faint. Almost invisible unless you knew where to look. I lowered my gaze, reading without moving my lips. 10 minutes. Kitchen door. Alone. I closed the menu without reacting, placing it back on the table as if nothing had happened. 10 minutes. That was not a warning. That was a plan, which meant she was not reacting to this situation. She was ahead of it. I leaned back again, letting my chair settle softly against the floor, and for the first time that night, I allowed myself to think one step further. If she had time to prepare, then this had been set in motion long before I walked into this room, which meant the people sitting across from me had been planning this for days, maybe weeks. My wife's eyes found mine again, searching, measuring. She was trying to read me now, trying to see if I had noticed. I gave her the same calm expression I had always given the world, the one that revealed nothing and promised even less. She relaxed slightly, just enough. That was her mistake. I reached for my glass again, this time taking a slow sip, letting the warmth settle as I calculated my next move. 10 minutes meant I needed an exit without making it obvious. No sudden movements, no broken rhythm, just a shift, a natural one. I placed the glass down and glanced at my watch, a small, ordinary gesture that no one questioned. "Excuse me," I said calmly, pushing my chair back with controlled ease. "I need a moment." My wife opened her mouth, as if to respond, but I did not give her the chance. I was already standing, stepping away from the table, already moving toward the part of the room where the kitchen door waited. And for the first time that night, I was no longer reacting to their plan. I was following someone else's. Scarlet Hayes. The moment I stepped away from the table, the air changed. Not dramatically, not enough for anyone watching casually to notice. But I felt it. The way conversations dipped half a tone. The way movement slowed just slightly, like the room was adjusting to a shift it had not expected. I kept my pace steady, neither rushed nor hesitant, my footsteps measured against the polished floor as I moved toward the kitchen entrance. Every instinct told me I was being watched, but instincts only matter if you let them control you. I did not look back. I did not need to. Reflections told me everything. In the glass panel near the wine display, I caught a glimpse of the man who had been near the exit. He was no longer pretending to read anything. His attention was on me now, subtle but direct. Another man adjusted his position near the hallway, closing off a secondary path without making it obvious. They were reacting, not to panic, to deviation. That meant my movement had not been part of their original plan. Good. That gave me space. I reached the kitchen door and paused just long enough to make it feel natural, like someone deciding whether to step into a different environment. The hum of the dining room softened behind me as I pushed the door open and stepped through. The shift was immediate. Heat, noise, motion. The controlled elegance of the dining room dissolved into something faster, sharper, more real. Chefs moved with precision, voices low but urgent, plates sliding across counters in a rhythm that never stopped. It was chaos, but it was honest chaos. No one here was pretending. And in the middle of it, standing just beyond the main line, was Scarlet Hayes. She did not look surprised to see me. That was the first thing I noticed. The second was that she was not acting like a waitress anymore. Her posture was different, straighter, focused, like she had been waiting for this exact moment. I stopped a few feet away from her, close enough to speak without raising my voice, far enough to keep control of the space between us. "You have 10 seconds, I said quietly, my tone calm but firm. Then I walked back out and pretend none of this happened. She met my gaze without hesitation, her eyes steady in a way that did not match the nervous energy she had shown earlier. "If you walk back out," she replied just as quietly, "you will not get a second chance." No fear, no uncertainty, just fact. I held her gaze for a second longer, measuring her, weighing the risk against the certainty I had already seen at the table. "Then start talking," I said. She took a small step closer, lowering her voice even further, forcing me to focus entirely on her words. "Your phone is down because they blocked the signal from inside the building," she said. "Your security team was redirected before you even arrived. The men out there are not yours, and the exits you think you have are already covered." I did not react, but every word aligned perfectly with what I had already observed. That was not guesswork. That was knowledge. "Who was behind it?" I asked. She hesitated for the first time, just a fraction of a second, then answered, "The people you trust most in that room." I felt it then. Not surprise, not anger, just confirmation. The pieces locked into place with quiet precision. My wife, her family, the timing, the setup, all of it. I exhaled slowly, letting the truth settle without letting it show. "Why warn me?" I asked, my voice lower now, more controlled. Her expression shifted, not softer, but deeper, like there was something beneath the surface she was not ready to reveal. "Because this was never supposed to be clean," she said. "And because you are not supposed to disappear without understanding why." That answer was not complete, not even close, but it was enough. Enough to tell me she was not on their side. Enough to tell me she had her own reason for being here. I glanced toward the door behind me, where the dining room waited, where the plan continued without me. "You said 10 minutes, I said. "What happens when they realize I am gone?" Scarlet Hayes did not look at the door. She looked directly at me. "They already know," she said quietly. "The question is, what are you going to do before they decide to act?" I have always believed that hesitation is what gets people killed, but that night I realized something worse exists. Misdirection. The kind that makes you think you still have time when you do not. I studied Scarlet Hayes for one more second, searching for any sign of uncertainty, any crack in the certainty she carried so effortlessly. There was none. That made her more dangerous than anyone in the dining room. "Then we move now," I said quietly, my voice calm, already shifting into action. She shook her head once, small but firm. "If you run, they will close everything in seconds," she replied. "You do not escape this by moving fast. You escape by moving right." I held her gaze, letting that settle. She was not improvising. She was guiding. That meant she knew more than she was saying. "Then you lead," I said. It was not trust. Not yet. But it was a decision. She turned without another word, moving through the kitchen with purpose, not rushing, not drawing attention. I followed one step behind, matching her pace exactly, blending into the rhythm of the staff moving around us. Heat pressed against my skin, the air thick with motion and noise, but my focus narrowed to the space directly ahead. She moved toward a narrow hallway near the back, one that looked like it led to storage or service access. Not an exit, not an obvious one. That was the point. "This way," she said under her breath, pushing through a door that opened into a dim corridor lined with supply shelves and stacked boxes. The noise of the kitchen faded behind us, replaced by a quieter, tighter kind of silence. I closed the door softly, the sound barely more than a whisper, and for the first time since I stood up from that table, I allowed myself to stop. Not to rest, to think. "Talk," I said, my voice low but controlled. "All of it." Scarlet Hayes turned to face me fully now, the distance between us small enough that every detail mattered. "They are not just removing you," she said. "They are replacing you." I felt the weight of those words immediately, not because they were shocking, but because they made sense. This was not about anger, not about revenge. This was strategy. Clean, precise, permanent. "With who?" I asked. She hesitated again, but only for a second. "Your wife," she said. The silence that followed was different, heavier. Not because I did not expect betrayal, but because I understood the scale of it now. This was not a decision made in one night. This was a plan built over time, piece by piece, until it reached this exact moment. I nodded once, slow, controlled, acknowledging the reality without letting it take control of me. "And you?" I said, narrowing my focus back to her. "Where do you fit into this?" Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted, something deeper, something personal. "I was not supposed to be part of it," she said. "I just saw enough to understand what they were doing." That was not the full truth. I could hear it in the way she said it. But it was enough for now. Enough to move forward. I stepped past her, glancing down the corridor, mapping the space, measuring distances, exits, possibilities. "They will check the kitchen first," I said quietly. "Then the rest of the building." She nodded. "That is why we do not go out the front, and we do not go where they expect you to run." I turned back to her, studying her again, this time not as a stranger, but as a variable I needed to understand. "Then where?" I asked. She held my gaze, her voice steady, certain, like she had already walked this path in her mind. "Down," she said. One word. Simple. Direct. But it changed everything. I followed her gaze to a narrow door at the end of the corridor, half hidden behind a stack of crates, the kind of door no one notices unless they are looking for it. Service access. Maintenance. Forgotten pathways beneath polished floors and perfect illusions. I took a slow breath, letting the weight of the decision settle for exactly 1 second. Then I moved. Because for the first time that night, I was not reacting to a trap. I was stepping into a different game entirely. And this time, I intended to win. I have spent years building control in places most people never even notice, but nothing prepares you for the moment you willingly step beneath it. The door at the end of the corridor looked insignificant, almost forgotten, the kind of thing people walk past without ever questioning what lies behind it. Scarlet Hayes reached it first, her hand steady as she pushed it open just enough for us to slip through. The air changed immediately, cooler, thinner, quieter in a way that felt unnatural after the noise of the kitchen. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me with care, making sure it settled into place without a sound. The space beyond was narrow, concrete walls stretching down into a dimly lit passage that smelled faintly of metal and dust. Utility lights flickered overhead, spaced too far apart, leaving pockets of shadow between them. This was not a place meant for guests. This was infrastructure. Hidden, overlooked, useful. Scarlet Hayes moved ahead without hesitation, her steps measured, confident, like she had been here before or had studied it well enough to move without doubt. I followed, keeping my distance precise, my attention split between her and the path behind us. Because the moment we left the main floor, the rules changed. Out there, everything was controlled. Down here, control had to be taken. How far does this go? I asked quietly, my voice low enough to disappear into the space around us. 2 levels down, she replied without turning. It connects to the service tunnels under the block. Old infrastructure. Most people do not even know it exists. That tract. Cities like this are built in layers, and the older ones always hide the most. I let my fingers brush lightly against the wall as we moved, grounding myself in the space, mapping it without needing to see everything. Distance, direction, time, always those 3. And you? I said after a moment, letting the silence stretch just enough to make the question matter. You knew this was here. She slowed slightly, just enough for me to notice, but she did not stop. I learned what I need to survive, she said. Not an answer. Not really. But it told me enough. She was not just reacting to this night. She had been preparing for something longer than that. We reached a landing where the corridor split, one path continuing straight, the other leading down a narrow set of concrete stairs. Scarlet Hayes did not hesitate. She turned toward the stairs. Down, she said again, quieter this time, as if confirming the choice more than making it. I followed, each step echoing softly beneath our feet despite the care we took. The deeper we moved, the more the world above us felt distant, like something already left behind. But distance does not mean safety. It just changes the shape of the danger. At the bottom of the stairs, the space opened slightly, revealing a wider tunnel lined with pipes and cables, the faint hum of electricity running through them like a heartbeat beneath the structure. I paused for half a second, scanning the space, letting my eyes adjust to the dim light. If they plan this well, I said, my voice calm but precise, they will not rely on one path. Scarlet Hayes turned to face me then, her expression steady, but there was something else there now. Urgency. They will cover the obvious exits, she said. Not this. I studied her for a moment longer, weighing that certainty against everything I had learned in my life. Plans like the one set against me tonight do not leave gaps by accident. But sometimes, they leave them because they believe no one will see them, or because they believe no one will get this far. I nodded once, accepting the risk for what it was. Then we keep moving, I said. She held my gaze for a second longer, as if measuring whether I understood what that meant. Not just physically, but everything that came after. Then she turned and continued down the tunnel, her pace steady, her direction clear. I followed without another word, the sound of our footsteps blending into the quiet hum around us. Because at this point, there was no going back to the table, no returning to the version of the night that existed before she whispered those 2 words. Now there was only forward. And whatever waited for us at the end of this path, it was no longer just about escape. It was about understanding who had decided my fate and why they believed they had already won. The deeper we moved, the quieter everything became. And I have learned that silence is never empty. It is always filled with something waiting to be understood. The tunnel stretched ahead in a straight line, concrete and steel repeating in a pattern that felt endless, the faint hum of electricity vibrating through the walls like a low, steady pulse. Scarlet Hayes did not slow down, but I could see the tension building in the way her shoulders held just a little tighter than before. Not fear. Awareness. The kind that comes from knowing you are not the only one thinking ahead. I adjusted my pace slightly, closing the distance between us by half a step. They will not stay upstairs, I said quietly, my voice carrying just enough to reach her without echoing. If they plan this properly, they will anticipate movement below. She nodded once, not turning, her voice low and controlled. Yes, but they will not know which path. That was the difference. Not certainty, probability. I let that settle as I scanned the tunnel again, this time looking for signs of disturbance, anything that did not belong. Footprints, displaced dust, a shift in air, small things, always small things. About 20 yards ahead, the tunnel curved slightly to the right, disappearing into shadow where the lights flickered weaker. I slowed for half a second, letting my senses adjust, then continued forward. You said they are replacing me, I said after a moment, bringing the conversation back to what mattered. That kind of move requires more than access. It requires loyalty. Scarlet Hayes stopped then, not abruptly, intentionally. She turned to face me, the dim light catching her expression in a way that made it harder to read, but not impossible. It requires control, she said. And control is easier when people believe they are safer choosing the new future than holding on to the old one. I studied her for a second longer, letting the meaning behind her words take shape. This was not just about my wife or her family. This was about everyone connected to me. Influence, perception, power shifting quietly beneath the surface. So they are not just removing me, I said. They are rewriting the structure. She held my gaze steady, unflinching. Yes. One word. Enough. I exhaled slowly, letting the realization settle into something usable. Because understanding changes everything. It turns reaction into strategy. It turns survival into something more deliberate. We resumed moving, the tunnel narrowing slightly as we approached the bend. The air felt different here, cooler. Still, I reached out lightly, brushing my fingers against the wall again, grounding myself in the physical space while my mind worked through the implications. You said you were not supposed to be part of this, I said, my tone quieter now, more focused. But you knew enough to intervene. That does not happen by accident. She did not answer immediately. That was the first real hesitation I had seen from her since we left the kitchen. When she did speak, her voice was softer, but no less controlled. I have been watching them longer than they realized, she said. That was not a full explanation, but it was closer to the truth than anything she had given me so far. I nodded once, accepting it for now, because time was no longer something we could spend freely. As we reached the curve, I slowed again, just enough to listen. The hum of the tunnel shifted slightly, and beneath it, something else. Faint, rhythmic, not part of the infrastructure. Movement. I raised a hand instinctively, signaling her to stop, even though she was already slowing. We both listened, the silence between us sharper than before. Footsteps, distant but closing, not rushing, controlled. That told me everything I needed to know. They were not searching blindly. They were following a plan. Scarlet Hayes looked at me, her expression steady, but there was no question in her eyes. She already understood what I had just confirmed. They are below, she said quietly. I nodded once, my focus sharpening into something precise and unforgiving. Then we are out of time, I replied. I glanced ahead into the shadowed bend, then back the way we came, calculating distance, options, timing. The path forward was no longer just an escape route. It was a decision point. And in moments like this, hesitation is not an option. I met her gaze one more time, measuring the only variable I had not fully solved. If I trust you, I said quietly, we move now. No second guesses. Scarlet Hayes did not hesitate this time, not even for a second. Then do not stop, she said. And with that, she turned and stepped into the darkness ahead, and I followed, knowing that whatever came next, there was no longer any version of this night where I walked away unchanged. Darkness does not scare me, but uncertainty does, and as we stepped deeper into the tunnel, I realized this was no longer just about escape. It was about understanding the game before it closed in completely. The light behind us faded, swallowed by distance and concrete, leaving only the weak flicker ahead guiding our path. Scarlet Hayes moved faster now, not running, but no longer holding back, her steps precise, calculated, like she was following something only she could see. I matched her pace without question, my focus sharpening with every second as the sound behind us grew clearer, closer, more intentional. They were not searching anymore. They were tracking. That meant one thing. We had been anticipated. How do they know this route? I asked quietly, my voice steady despite the pressure building around us. Scarlet Hayes did not slow, but I saw it. The shift in her shoulders, the acknowledgement of a truth she could not avoid anymore. Because this was never just their plan, she said. It was built from yours. I stopped for half a second, just enough for the meaning to land. Then I moved again, faster this time, closing the gap between us. Explain, I said, my tone lower now, sharper, cutting through everything else. She turned at the next narrow split in the tunnel, pulling me into a side passage barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side. The air here felt tighter, heavier, like it had not been disturbed in years. These tunnels were mapped from your old network, she said, her voice quiet but clear. Routes you built when you needed options no one else could see. The realization settled in immediately, cold and precise. This was not just betrayal. This was inheritance. They were not replacing me by destroying what I created. They were using it. Then, they are not following us blindly, I said. They are predicting us. Scarlet Hayes nodded once. Yes, but they do not know everything, she replied. There are still parts of this system that were never documented. Parts only you would recognize. That was the first time she had said something that shifted the balance back, even slightly. Not enough to regain control, but enough to create a possibility. I slowed my pace just enough to think, to let memory surface through the pressure of the moment. Old layouts, forgotten pathways, decisions made years ago when survival meant building exits no one else could find. Most of it had been erased from active use. But not all of it. Never all of it. There is a junction ahead, I said, more to myself than to her. It splits into 3 directions. Only one leads out without looping back. Scarlet Hayes glanced at me, something new in her expression now. Not doubt, recognition. Then that is where we go, she said. We moved faster, the tunnel narrowing again before opening slightly into a wider space where the ceiling rose just enough to change the acoustics. I could hear it clearly now. Footsteps behind us, closer than before, measured, controlled. They were gaining, not because they were faster, because they knew the structure well enough to cut distance. They will try to push us toward the main exit, I said quickly. Force us into a predictable path. Scarlet Hayes nodded. Then we do not give them one. We reached the junction seconds later, the space opening into 3 separate corridors, each one nearly identical in appearance, each one disappearing into shadow beyond the reach of the dim lights. I stopped, my eyes moving quickly between them, not looking for what was obvious, but for what did not belong. Small details, air movement, sound reflection, the way the dust settled along the edges. I stepped toward the left path, then stopped. Something felt wrong. Too clean, too expected. I shifted my focus to the center path. The air felt still, closed. A loop. That left one option. I turned toward the right corridor, where the light flickered unevenly and the air carried a faint current, almost unnoticeable, unless you were looking for it. This way, I said, my voice firm now certain. Scarlet Hayes did not question it. She moved immediately, trusting the decision without hesitation. As we stepped into the corridor, the sound behind us changed. Not louder, closer. They had reached the junction. I did not look back. I did not need to, because in that moment, I understood something I should have realized sooner. This was never just about escaping them. It was about outthinking a system that had been built to replace me. And if they believed they knew every path I created, then they had already made their first mistake. The corridor narrowed as we moved, the ceiling dropping just enough to make the space feel tighter, more deliberate, like it was designed to test anyone who dared to use it. I could feel the air shifting now, faint but consistent, a subtle current brushing against my face with every step forward. That meant one thing. There was an opening ahead, not visible yet, but close. Scarlet Hayes kept pace beside me, her breathing controlled, her focus locked ahead, but I could sense the same awareness building in her. Not relief. Not yet. Just the recognition that we were approaching a turning point that would decide everything that came after. Behind us, the sound of movement echoed through the tunnel again, sharper now, closer than before. They had chosen a path. Whether it was the right one or not did not matter anymore. They were committed, and so were we. How far? I asked quietly, my voice steady despite the pressure tightening around us. Less than 100 feet, she replied without hesitation. There is a service exit that connects to an underground loading area. From there, you can reach the street. I nodded once, letting that settle into something actionable. Not safety. Opportunity. There is always a difference. We pushed forward, the flickering lights overhead casting uneven shadows along the walls, stretching and shrinking with every step, making the space feel alive in a way that most people would find unsettling. But I did not focus on the shadows. I focused on the rhythm. Ours. Theirs. The distance between the two. Every second mattered. Now, as the corridor began to slope upward, I knew we were close. The air grew cooler, cleaner, carrying the faint scent of the outside world just beyond reach. I slowed slightly, not from hesitation, but from calculation. Because reaching the exit is never the end. It is the moment where mistakes are made. They will expect us to surface, I said, my voice lower now, more precise. They will have someone watching the exit. Scarlet Hayes nodded once. Yes, but they will expect you to hesitate, to check, to slow down. I looked at her, just for a second, measuring the certainty in her words. And we do not, I replied. It was not a question. She met my gaze, her expression steady, unshaken. We do not. That was the first moment I realized something had changed between us. Not trust, not fully, but alignment. We were no longer moving as two people trying to survive the same situation. We were moving as one decision. We reached the final stretch, the tunnel narrowing again before opening into a small concrete chamber where a metal door stood at the far end. It looked ordinary, reinforced, but not imposing. The kind of door no one notices from the outside. I stepped closer, my hand hovering just inches from the handle, and paused. Not because I was unsure, because this was the moment everything reset. Whatever waited beyond that door was no longer part of their plan. It was part of mine. I turned slightly, looking at Scarlet Hayes one last time before making the move. When this opens, I said quietly, there is no going back to what this was. She held my gaze, her expression unreadable for a fraction of a second. Then something shifted. Not softer, clearer. There was never anything to go back to, she said. The truth in that landed deeper than anything else she had said all night. I nodded once, accepting it fully this time. Then I pushed the door open. The outside air rushed in immediately, cool and sharp, carrying the distant sounds of the city above, engines, voices, life continuing as if none of this had ever happened. I stepped through without hesitation, scanning the space instinctively, but what I found was not what I expected. No one waiting. No immediate threat. Just an empty loading area stretching out beneath dim industrial lights. Too clean, too quiet. I took 2 steps forward, my senses sharpening again, recalibrating to a new environment, a new set of possibilities. Behind me, Scarlet Hayes stepped out as well, the door closing softly, as if sealing away everything that came before. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle just long enough to understand one thing clearly. This was not the end of their plan. It was the beginning of mine. I turned slightly, my voice calm, controlled, but carrying something new beneath it. Now, I said, looking at her, you are going to tell me everything. Because surviving the night was never the goal. Understanding it was. And for the first time since she whispered those 2 words, I was no longer the one being hunted. I was the one deciding what happened next.